Patel, FBI director, as well as the heads of the NSA and DIA. Expect to hear more questions about why those officials are talking about future military operations against the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in an unclassified but encrypted signal app. President Trump says yesterday he stands by his national security advisor, Mike Waltz.
It's equipment and technology that's not perfect, and probably he won't be using it again.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling for a full investigation.
The Homeland Security Secretary is in El Salvador to see where gang members are being held after being deported.
It's a high-security prison known as the Terrorism Confinement Center, about an hour's drive east of the capital, San Salvador. No visitors, no education programs, and a symbol of El Salvador's crime crackdown. It's now home to people the Trump administration describes as the worst of the worst, alleged members of the Tren de Aragua gang recently removed from the United States. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visits today to see the deportation program in action. She'll also meet El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
New Jersey stands an excellent chance of electing a Republican governor this year, and so potentially breaking from its long, slow decline. Though solidly blue for years, GOP candidate Jack Chiarelli says the Garden State has shifted red of late in response to hapless Democrat misrule under Governor Phil Murphy.
More than 2 million people in New Jersey voted for Donald Trump last election day, so there's a lot of energy around him and his policies. I was with him last Friday night, and I thanked him for what he's doing to make the country safe again, and in particular, what he's done here in New Jersey.
Kentucky's Democratic governor vetoed a Republican-backed abortion bill Tuesday. Carmen Roberts has more.
Kentucky Republican lawmakers touted the bill as an attempt to clarify the state's near-total abortion ban. But Democratic Governor Andy Beshear says it would do the exact opposite. Beshear, an abortion rights supporter, says the bill would undermine the judgment of doctors and endanger the lives of pregnant women in emergency situations. Republicans have a supermajority in the state legislature and will have a chance to override the governor's veto when lawmakers reconvene on Thursday.
And finally, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Texas A&M University Board's decision to ban drag shows on all campuses.
In February, the Board of Regents unanimously voted to ban drag shows on all system-wide campuses. Student newspaper The Battalion reports that student group the Queer Empowerment Council, with help from the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE, sued in the Southern District of Texas earlier this month. On Monday, U.S. District Judge Lee H. Rosenthal, a George H.W. Bush appointee, granted a temporary injunction while the lawsuit goes forward. The Christian Post reported that in addressing the school's objections, the judge posed the question, when do performances in which men dress as women cross the line from entertaining to demeaning? Jonathan Covey of Texas Values.
The threshold issue from a legal perspective is whether drag shows are expressive conduct protected under the First Amendment. And the test they do is whether they seek to convey a message that would be a message that would be clearly understood by observers. And, you know, we don't believe that it does.
He cited a court opinion regarding West Texas A&M University.
In that case, they said, no, drag doesn't clearly convey a message. So this is a highly litigated area, but there are particularly high concerns when a drag show is hypersexualized, when it's available to be attended by children.
I'm Robert Thornton.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hey, we're announcing a weekend with AFA on Thursday, October the 2nd through Saturday, October the 4th. We'll have a weekend get-together with AFA leadership and supporters. It's a chance for all of us to get better acquainted.
It's a weekend with AFA, Thursday, October 2nd through Saturday, October 4th in Tupelo, Mississippi. Speakers will include Abraham Hamilton III, Jenna Ellis, Tim Barton, Tim Wildman, and more. Register at afa.net/weekend.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Today's Issues program here on American Family Radio. This is a live show. on American Family Radio. Wednesday, March the 26th, 2025. Tim Wildman here with Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Wesley Wildman.
Hey, good morning.
Fred Jackson.
Hey there, Tim.
So, gentlemen, I would like to invite anybody in our listening audience to be included on our group text. I'm about to create a group text that's just going to be private for us.
Yes.
But if anybody's listening out there and wants to join and listen in, they
important leadership information, decisions we've got to
absolutely.
make.
We've got to make some important leadership
Which makes a lot of
about
sense.
the ministry, and I just want to invite anybody who wants to join our.
By the way, we may want to include on that text thread our plans to go after the SPLC, our strategies and tactics. Go after
All
the
right,
Southern Poverty Law
what
Center.
we're talking about, making a joke, which is rare for me, about something serious, but not the end of the world story. What are we talking about here, Fred?
Well, I think most of our audience are familiar now with the controversy that has been created because the Atlantic is a leftist publication. The editor-in-chief...
It's more than an ocean.
It's
a magazine.
It's a magazine, yes.
An online presence.
The editor-in-chief is Jeffrey Goldberg. The big story is that somehow he received a message that was only meant for security people within the Trump administration. It had to do with the attack on the Houthi rebels back, about 10 days ago. Everybody's trying to figure out how he was added to the list, the distribution list of this message.
It was only meant for a handful of high-level Trump administration team members.
That is correct. We have been told, including by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, that no classified information was posted to the Signal chat. All right?
When we say Signal, I'm sorry to interrupt you here, but
No, go ahead.
I try to put myself in the seat of the listener out there. They're going, Signal? What in the world are you talking about? Signal is like a WhatsApp, if I'm right, huh? It's it's an app that's used for a private conversation. True?
Correct.
Okay. So when you say Signal, that's what we're talking about.
That's
Go
the
ahead.
platform.
Yes, sir.
For this chat.
Go ahead.
All right. What has happened in the last hour is that the Atlantic editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, has released the entire Signal chat that he received that includes the detailed attack plans against the Houthis that was released by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Let me read you a little bit of that. In the group chat, Hegseth posted 12:15 F-18's launch, 13:45 this military time, trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts, 14:10 more F-18's launch, 14:15 strike drones on target, 15:36 F-18 second strike starts, more to follow per timeline. Godspeed to our warriors. So that was published. Now, Goldberg says that he consulted the White House as to whether he could release that. And apparently the response from the White House was it would prefer he did not publish. It would prefer.
Now, this Signal, I didn't even know about it until this story, but this is encrypted.
Yes.
So you can have a chat with people, and this is what, and the White House, the Trump administration is not the only ones to use this.
That's right.
You can have a chat going on that's supposedly protected, but what National Security Advisor Michael Waltz did was accidentally include this reporter, Goldberg.
Yes.
Okay. And so you have a left-leaning reporter, probably anti-Trump, could embarrass the Trump administration by releasing this, but also could have given a heads up to the Houthis.
Yes.
Which would have, I think, been treasonous.
Yeah.
So, in defense of Goldberg, I would say at least he didn't do that, and at least he contacted the White House and said, hey, what would you prefer to do? But now he went ahead and released it.
Yes.
But
just FYI, the Houthis, is that what you call them?
Houthis.
They're like Al-Qaeda, for those wanting to know. They're like Al-Qaeda. They're like ISIS, Hamas, and they're a group located in Yemen. Yemen borders is it the Red Sea? What sea is it?
Suez Canal.
The Suez Canal. Is it the Red Sea?
Into the Red Sea.
Okay. So just so people know, our merchant ships, the U.S., and our military ships, which go within miles of Yemen, it's not a big ocean like the Indian Ocean or the Atlantic, like the way I did that. It is a small, narrow area, and the Houthis have been attacking our merchant ships, our oil tankers, our military ships with weapons launched from Yemen. So President Trump and his team have had enough of this, and they are militarily attacking these Houthis. And that's the engagement that this story is about.
Right.
Wesley, you understand what's going on here?
I do. One of the questions I had was this news reporter Goldberg. Is there not even though he was accidentally included, and he asked the White House, how was that not a hard no? You can't share this information. And also, why is it that there's no consequence for him sharing that information if it's so private and it's such a big platform? I'm just curious.
I'm answering.
I'm asking. I understand.
I'm answering as a layman here.
That's what I'm asking for. That's what this show's about, right? Or full layman's.
Yes, I'm gonna lay it out for you right here. Yeah. First of all, this is a bonehead with a capital B mistake on the part of somebody on the Trump orbit. Okay. Well, it's more than a capital B. It's all letters, bonehead.
Right. All caps.
All caps, bonehead. Now, who's the gentleman who took the blame?
He is National Security Advisor Michael Waltz. Now, he is not saying I did it, but he's taking responsibility because he holds that title.
That's right.
He said yesterday, we're investigating how this happened.
It could be a staff member.
Could be.
Who he said, okay, send this to the group.
Yes.
And my understanding is, now we'll continue to get information, is that some of these, when you have a text thread with just messaging people, you can sometimes add people to it, and you start typing who you want in it, and sometimes your phone fills it in. It picks the person's name.
Auto picks.
Auto selects it. Now that's not an excuse at this level.
Right.
That might be an excuse.
This is kind of worrisome to me that this could happen at this level, because what if this had been an even more serious international incident that we were going to be engaged in militarily? This is like unbelievable that this could happen. Not unbelievable that human error can't exist even at the highest levels of government, but this could happen.
Yeah.
You could auto spell okay. May I make a suggestion here?
Yeah.
To President Trump and Vice President Vance and his team, you do this kind of stuff again, you meet in the Situation Room at the White House, and you meet in person.
Yeah.
And you close the doors. You don't do a chat on something like this. That's my opinion. Now, if Secretary Hexeth wants to call, I wouldn't call. No, this is your job.
Yeah.
Okay, you go physically in person, and you meet with the president.
That's
and you
right.
tell him what's about to happen, what the timeline is. You don't put this kind of stuff in a group text. Furthermore, there's nothing private in the world. Okay.
Right.
I don't care if it's Signal or WhatsApp or
Yeah.
Someone's going to hack it.
Yes. Who has information to this? Well, Signal does.
Yeah.
They have to have it because you're using their platform.
Right.
So I guess I'm going real old school on you here, but I think this was totally bungled by everybody involved right there.
You know, it's interesting. If you ever seen either a movie or a documentary about the Cuban Missile Crisis, John F. Kennedy had his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, in the White House, and they had people.
He was the Attorney General.
He was the Attorney General, but he was kind of JFK's confidant because of his brother.
Yes.
And they were talking about what we should do. The Soviets putting missiles 90 miles away in Cuba. That was all in the White House. There was no phone calls. Hey, what do you think? It was all face to face, and
the phone calls could be tapped.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but that's not a bad idea, Tim. On things like this, when you're going to war,
right?
And that's what this is,
right.
Military strikes. Maybe you're in the Situation Room, and you're not watching March Madness while you're texting on Signal.
Was there anything else in the text thread in addition to that may be concerning?
Yes, so he ordered out Subway. Ordered a ham and huh?
That's what. Yeah,
that shouldn't be happening.
And now the world knows.
You're welcome. I set you up for that one.
I don't know. Listen, I just think the Democrats are going to make this the end of the world story. They're going to go on. This is J6 for them. This is Russia again. All this is human error. That. As far as I can tell, there's no hidden secrets here. This was just an announcement about military activities against the Houthis and when it was going to take place. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. So ignore the Democrats saying, well, I don't know what they're going to try to make of all this. They did it yesterday, and listen, I don't blame them politically. They got to score some points here. But it's no more. It's 1 3-point shot. Okay, to use Mark Madden's. It's not a flurry of Steph Curry.
No.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, that's.
You like that rhyme?
It's brilliant.
That was a rhyme.
You're on a roll.
I didn't even.
You're on a roll.
Yes, I am. And anyway, all right. Is there any more to this story, Fred?
No, you can read about it at afn.net. afn.net. May
I also say something else?
Last one on this.
This is my opinion.
Text it if you
This is my opinion. This is my opinion, and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of the other 3 people in here. Okay.
The other 3 laymen.
There are times when President Trump and his approach and his, in this case, some of his cabinet members, his approach to attack people is beneficial and serves his goals and so forth. Personally attacking people. Okay, and then there are times you don't need to do that. Okay? What they did with this reporter, he's more than a reporter, he's an editor.
Editor-in-chief.
Of the Atlantic magazine / website. Mm-hmm. Is that they immediately attacked this guy and called him all kind of names. I'm talking about Trump and the rest of them. Mm-hmm. And then Pete Hegseth, who I love, says it's a hoax. Well, it wasn't a hoax. It was the fault of somebody in the administration for adding this guy who he didn't ask for this.
Right.
He didn't try to sneak into a private conversation. He got accidentally added, and then all of a sudden they're calling him names. You see what I'm saying? Right. This is my opinion again. So I think in this case, they'd have done better to not attack the fella because it ticked him off. And now he's releasing this other stuff.
That's what I'm reading here. That's the reason I'm asking.
He's mad because they've attacked him. Now, he's a lefty. Don't get me wrong. Right. But it would have been when Hegseth is out calling it a hoax when it clearly is not, then it makes – they're trying to make this guy look bad just simply because he was on an unknowing recipient of a text. Now, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I would say this, though. I think the appropriate thing for Jeffrey Goldberg to have done would have been to text I'm not even sure if you call it texting. I guess on the you're chatting or texting, whatever, on Signal, is to say, guys, I don't think you meant to include me.
I agree with that.
Yes.
I think that's what he should have done.
Well, if he didn't do that, then maybe he deserves the name call, some of the name calling that he's getting. So I do make a caveat for that.
But I agree. I think in the case like that, you own it. You don't blame him. You do say, listen, he should have just kept this quiet. No American should take advantage of a mistake like this.
Talking about national security.
Talking about national security. But I do think that the Trump administration could have taken in public a different tack in attacking him, because it was the Trump administration's fault.
Right. Yeah.
So and he does have, I will say this one other thing. I'm not defending this guy, Jeffrey Goldberg, is that he is in charge. He is a reporter in the sense that his job is to collect information, and you have to ask the question, what about those other individuals that have leaked entire reams of documents? The guys who are, who've been in hiding, and, I can't think of the names of the two guys that released all those documents 10 years ago.
Talking about Snowden?
Yes, Snowden, and I can't think the other guy's name, but that's just because
you mean the guy who was held up in the
embassy?
What was his name?
I remember Snowden because he went to Russia.
Snowden, yeah, but there was what was the other guy's name?
I'll come around and find it for our listeners. They're yelling it at us, telling us. I know. But all of us said, well, we had a right to know. Did we have a right to know? This is a gray area. I put Jeffrey Goldberg in that kind of no-win situation. I think he should have handled it differently and said, guys, I was included by mistake. But at the same time, his job is to get information. And if it comes to him and drops in his lap, okay, then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
So.
All right, let's move on.
All right, back almost 2 months ago, we had a conversation on this program with President Trump's.
It's Assange. That's the guy.
Yes, Assange.
Snowden and Assange.
Okay.
Yeah. Did he ever get any sunshine?
Julian
Poor
Assange
fella.
and Edward Snowden.
He's going to get scurvy or something if he doesn't get some sunshine.
Get some sunshine, vitamin D. He needs. Yeah. All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Back a couple months ago, we had a conversation with President Trump's nominee to be our next ambassador to Israel, and that is the former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee. Well, we've been kind of wondering, how come he hasn't gone before a Senate panel for his approval? Well, that happened yesterday, and Mike Huckabee faced some interesting questions. Now, for the most part, very friendly questions from the Republicans on the panel, but from the Democrats, and let me just summarize, they say, the Democrats said, we support Israel, but, and there were a lot of kind of introduction of questions from Democrats along that line. One of them came from Democrat Nevada Senator Jackie Rosen. She certainly supports Israel, she says, but she questioned Mike Huckabee about his public statements that he does not think a two-state solution is the way to go. In other words, Palestinian state, Israel state existing side by side. So I want you to listen to Senator Rosen and then hear the response from soon-to-be Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Cut one.
Continue advocating for a future two-state solution, and if not, what is your alternative?
I think the question is not, is there a need for people who are Palestinian to be able to live and have a future? The question is where and when. Senator, Israel is a tiny little strip of land. You know that. We all do. It's the size of New Jersey. But Muslim countries control 644 times the amount of land that Israel has. They've been surrounded by those who have sought to destroy it, annihilate it. Those who chant from the river to the sea are not bringing about peace. The other thing that has to happen is a cultural shift. There can be no peace and two-state solution If there continues to be education from the time a child is 5 and 6 years old living under the Palestinian Authority that says it's okay, in fact, it's desirable to murder Jews and to reward them for it.
All right. That is soon-to-be Ambassador Mike Huckabee to Israel.
Well, I mean, you can't say anything else. I mean, you can't disagree with that, you know, so good for him. Now, at what point will he be confirmed?
It should move out of committee in the next few days.
Okay, and there shouldn't be an issue there, should it?
Even
though it's taking longer than we like.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a partisan vote, probably 53-47 or whatever it is.
Yes.
You know, I was listening to Jenna Ellis's show this morning, and she had a guest on that was talking about. Oh, go ahead.
Jack Hibbs.
Okay.
He's with Chino Hills Chapel,
California.
California, yeah. And he is very outspoken politically and a big supporter of Israel. And you mentioned Jenna talked to him about this. Cut number 2.
Who's upset with President Trump's appointment of Mike Huckabee? You can know a lot about someone by who hates them. And so you look at the entire Democrat Party. This cannot happen in their worldview. Mike Huckabee loves Jesus too much, loves the Bible, and is concerned for Israel. The Council for American Islamic Relations, Huckabee cannot be confirmed. This is unacceptable because he loves Israel and he loves the Bible. Look at the Muslim Brotherhood. They're furious right now, Jenna, over the thought of Mike Huckabee being the ambassador to Israel. You go down that list, and you can know a lot about somebody by whose enemies they have surrounding them.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, it's a great point. And the fact is, one of the other things that Pastor Hibbs said when I was listening this morning was, the ambassador to Israel represents the U.S. Okay,
Right.
he's not. Mike Huckabee's not in charge of Israel's policy in Gaza. He can tell what the United States encourages Benjamin Netanyahu to do, but you're sending someone to represent the United States to Israel.
Right.
And the fact that all these people hate Governor Huckabee because he's a Christian, an outspoken Christian, a Bible preaching pastor in earlier times in his life, and who loves Israel, it's very revealing that these people don't want someone like that as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. They apparently want someone that hates Israel sent there to represent U.S. views.
Yeah, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, who's a good friend of ours and was on with us, 6 weeks ago or so. By the way, we have an invitation once he's confirmed to come back on our program.
Mm-hmm.
So he is the left would call him a Zionist,
Right.
which means
He would call himself a Christian Zionist.
Yeah, he's a pro-Israel.
Which makes him the perfect candidate for this job.
Yeah, he's reflective of the Trump administration.
Yeah.
I mean, he shares the views that President Trump has about Israel. So I think he'll be confirmed, and I think he'll do a great job as ambassador. And I know for him, it's probably a dream job.
Yeah.
Because he loves Israel and the land of the Bible. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
You therefore must be perfect, as your Heavenly Father is perfect. Let me share with you a story that happened to me many, many years ago. My study was located in a storage room, or what was supposed to be a storage room, directly behind our home. It was a very small room to begin with, and once I put my books and supplies and machines in it, I could hardly turn around. It was really too small, but it was the best we could come up with at the moment, and I had to bear with it until better days came along. One day I was having one of those days when everything seemed to go wrong. You've had 'em, I know. We all have. It was a day when I wished, and most folks around me wished, that I'd stayed in bed. My desk was covered over with matters that needed my attention, correspondence was lagging, and there were other matters pressing. Well, I was sitting in my study, half mad at myself and half mad at my lack of space. Then, without knocking, in came my son Timmy and proceeded to sit down behind me. I started to turn and tell him there wasn't room for him in the study, but I waited, for I knew that if I spoke at that particular moment, I would be harsh with him. So I went about my work, listening as he began taking paper from the wastebasket and books from the shelf. He nearly lit a fuse when he spoke. "Daddy," he said, "do you have a pen?" Well, I reached into my pocket and gave him my pen. I then tried to continue my work, but it seemed that every time I turned around I bumped into him. So, my temperature rising, I turned to scold him and send him back into the house, and upon turning, I was stopped cold by what I saw. Timmy had laid out before him some old papers he'd taken from the trash can, some of my books from the bookshelf, and with a pen in hand he was marking on a sheet of paper. He'd made himself a makeshift desk that was in something of a mess. Now, most of the time when Timmy wanted to know what I was doing out in the study, I told him that I'm studying. I looked at him there. He paused for a moment and looked up, and after thinking for a few seconds, he began to write again. "What are you doing, son?" I asked him. He looked at me in the eye as only a son can do, and then gave me his answer with a little grin on his face. "I'm studying, Daddy." Well, I didn't say anything else to him. I turned back around and pretended to go back to work. But I didn't do much work for the next few minutes. I just sat there thinking about how proud I was of my son. It made me feel just as big as a man can get to know that my son wanted to be like me, to do what I do. Then a greater truth came to me. My Creator was telling me that this was really what He wanted from me. He wanted me to be like Him. I still think about that often, how good He must feel when we act like Him, do what He does, act like we are one of His children. Wouldn't it be a good world, I say to myself, if we wanted to be like Him as much as Timmy wanted to be like his father? It sure would.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to His great mercy, He has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. 1 Peter 1:3.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Okay, I'm going to have to vent a little bit right
Vent,
here.
brother.
I think you're in agreement with me, Ed, because we've talked about this topic before. Fred doesn't know what we're going to talk about. Wesley's not back yet. I don't know. He stepped out.
I think he's making a sandwich.
Well, yeah. Ordering a sandwich on Signal for carry out. All right, so faucets today.
I'm with you.
You know where I'm going with this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. In the good old days, we had a knob. Am I right?
Yes, or a handle.
Or a handle. Call it what you want to, but
right.
you flipped it one way or another for hot or cold and on or off.
Yes.
How can you improve on that? No, we've got to try to do something so sophisticated it aggravates people. Now, you go to the restroom, you wash your hands, and you have to contort yourself to find the water that comes on.
The sensor.
You're looking. Well, Ed and I, we're regularly, we're getting older, so we regularly have to meet in there, and we're washing our hands, and
Let me just clarify. We don't meet in there.
Well, no.
We cross paths.
That is a good clarification. We cross paths because we have to do as all humans do.
Everyone gets it.
Yeah,
We're older.
I don't have to explain anything. But you put your hands under there, and then you have to wave them around and find the right.
I'm telling you who did this.
Who did this?
I'm telling you this. China.
China.
So they produced these sensor-driven faucets.
They're devils, is what they are.
And what's weird is that on two separate floors here, we have second floor, first floor. The sensors are in different places. So downstairs, the sensors are closer to the sink. Upstairs,
Fred, it's not funny.
They're at the top.
No.
I don't appreciate.
No.
This is
I'm sharing your frustration.
Okay.
And you have to wave your hands to try to turn it on. Then you can turn it on a little bit.
Yes.
And then it shuts off.
Yes.
And now you got to find it again. No, I'm with you.
Okay.
Because growing up, I had the little handle.
Yeah.
All right.
The handle.
Yes. You wash your hands and you just use your wrist to shut it off.
That's what I'm talking about.
And you go. And I'll tell you something else.
Tell me something else.
Getting the paper towels to dispense using a sensor.
That also
will
cause you to lose your religion.
Preach it, brother.
Huh? I'm telling you. I've had to fight bad words sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Am I right? Am I the only one?
No, it is fresh. Just because there's an advancement in technology doesn't mean it's an improvement.
That is progressive for progressive's sake.
Yes.
That is not for progressive for the helpful of others.
And I think it's your brother.
Yes, it is.
Who supervised the building here of our new building, and he said go with the
sensors. He went
go with the sensors over the handles.
Oh, these young people.
If there was one thing I could change about that, I wasn't paying attention that day when he showed me the architectural plans. I didn't say, well, I should have said what kind of faucet handles we're going to have.
Yeah.
No, we're going with sensors.
Yep.
Anyway,
I'm
sorry I had to vent that.
And speaking of preaching it,
we got a guest.
We got a guest.
We got a preacher.
Yes. All right. So maybe we need a moment of silence, separation between the carnal and the holy, right here.
Well, Dr. Jeffress can handle anything. Okay. He can handle this transition.
All right. Dr. Robert Jeffress is a pastor of the First Baptist Church in Dallas, and he is the host of a long-standing radio show on American Family Radio and other stations called Pathway to Victory. It's a Bible teaching program, obviously, daily, Monday through Friday here on AFR at 6 a.m. Central Time. And he joins us now. Good morning, Robert. How you doing, my friend?
Great, Tim. Good to be with you guys again.
Hey, by the way, has it been 2 years now since the old sanctuary burnt?
No, it's just been 7 months. It seems maybe years.
I know. I'm trying to. I can't. Time is hard to judge now. So give us an update on that for those who don't know.
Yeah,
that was the historic sanctuary that dated back over 100 years or so.
Yeah, about 136 years. We worshipped in it. And, 4 presidents came to worship there over history. Billy Graham, who was a member of our church, preached from that pulpit and sanctuary many times. I was baptized there. And the night of July 19th, it went up in flames in a 4-alarm fire. 130 firefighters tried to push back against it. We lost the historic sanctuary, did about $140 million worth of damage. And but the good news is we're in the stage to rebuild that historic sanctuary, and the church is doing great. We really appreciate all the prayers of our friends. I got to see President Trump last week in the Oval Office. The first thing he asked me was, how's the church doing after the fire? So he's been a real supporter throughout it as well.
Did the fire department ever determine what caused the fire?
No, it was undisclosed or undetermined. Okay. They don't think it was arson. I mean, it was an old building with a lot of old wires in it.
Yeah, that happens.
For sure.
That happens. Okay, you got a brand new book out called Jesus Revealed in the End Times. The subtitle is Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. Give us an overview of the book, and then I know Fred has a question or two here.
Yeah, Tim, I've preached on Bible prophecy for decades, written about it. I don't think you can be a faithful preacher of Scripture and not talk about the return of Jesus Christ. It's the theme of the Old and the New Testaments. Jesus is coming back again. But every time I've ever taught on it, I've done so in terms of events, the rapture, the tribulation, the millennium, the second coming, and so forth. But this book is a unique approach to Bible prophecy. It looks at prophecy through the lens of Jesus. You know, Bible prophecy, when you think about it, is not so much about what is coming. It's about who is coming. Jesus is coming. And so many Christians, Tim, get just scared spitless over the idea of Jesus coming back and Bible prophecy, and they're scared to death. This is great news for everybody who knows Christ as Savior. And so this is a positive look at the end times. Now, if you're not a believer, you have every reason to be scared about the end. It doesn't turn out well for you. But if you know Christ, it's something to be hopeful about. And that's the theme of the book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times.
Pastor Jeffers, Fred here. Why are some pastors reluctant to deal with Bible prophecy? What do they have against that?
Well, I think it's two things. I think, first of all, some of them are just lazy. I mean, it takes some study to study the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. People say, well, God never meant for us to understand. Well, if he didn't mean for us to understand it, why is the book of Revelation the only book of the Bible that has a special blessing attached to those who read and obey its words? I think some are just lazy, but I think also some are misled. They think there's no relevance about Jesus' future coming to today. And yet in 2 Peter 3, the apostle said, talking about the end of the world, seeing all these things are to be burned up in this way, what sort of people ought you to be in holy conduct and godliness, looking for and hastening the coming day of the Lord? If Jesus is really coming back, if he's coming back to judge the wicked and reward the righteous, then that ought to affect how I live my life today.
Pastor Jeffers, do you think, this is Ed, by the way, do you think that some pastors steer away from this topic? That one of the reasons might be that I don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but there does seem to be a hesitancy amongst a lot of pastors to speak too exclusively about Christianity, about Jesus being the only way to heaven. They get a lot of blowback, and you can't talk about the end times and the return of Christ and, you know, all the things that are going to happen at the end. You can't talk about that without making the claim that Jesus, he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Do you think that could be some of the hesitancy as well?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot of people picture Jesus as this little wimpy rabbi who walked around the countryside saying nice things to people. I mean, it's true. Jesus in his first coming came to be the Savior of the world. But the next time he's coming as judge of the world. That's what we talk about in Jesus Revealed in the End Times. At the second coming, we see the fullness of his role, including that as the judge. And Revelation 20 is very clear. If any person's name is not found written in the book of life, he's cast into the lake of fire and tormented day and night forever and ever. I have to tell you an interesting story. I'm preparing something right now for the Billy Graham Library. I was doing some research, and I found this interesting anecdote. Back in January of 1961, a few days before Kennedy was inaugurated as president, he invited Billy Graham to come to Florida to play golf with him. And they were driving back from the golf game. Kennedy was driving in a white Lincoln convertible. He pulls the car off to the side, turns the engine off, looks at Billy Graham and says, "Billy, do you believe Jesus is coming back to earth one day?" And Billy Graham said, "Yes, sir, I do." And then Kennedy asked, "Well, if that's true, why do I hear so little about it today?" And I think the message we need to be making sure everybody hears today is Jesus is coming back, and we need to be ready for that. And again, that's a message of hope and great assurance for believers. It's a cause for terror for unbelievers.
Pastor Jeffers, Fred again. We saw an image, a picture of you in the Oval Office, praying with another group of Christians with President Trump. Talk a little bit about that experience. And my understanding is that he wanted you folks, you were meeting at another place there in the White House. He wanted you to come in and pray for him. Is that how that went down?
It is, and it's happened a number of times. About 15 of us were there, faith leaders, to have a listening session, what they call it, at the White House, where they probe us about what issues, Christian issues, were at the forefront of our thinking and concern. And so we were having that discussion. The president was aware of it. I had texted the president earlier in the week to tell him we were going to be there. And with everything he had going on, he wanted to take time to pray. And it wasn't a quick in and out. We spent about 30 minutes with him, and they asked me to lead off in prayer and lead off with some comments. And on behalf of the group, I thank the president, first of all, for having the courage to push back against these leftist judges that are trying to keep him from exercising not only his constitutional, but his biblical mandate to protect our citizens from evildoers. And then I thanked him for the prominence that he was giving faith in his new administration. He has so many things planned to highlight faith. And I just thanked him for having the courage to stand up and to say without apology that America was founded on a Judeo-Christian faith, and that we as a country are blessed by God if we honor God. And so then I started in prayer, and several others prayed. It was a great time, and he seemed to appreciate it greatly.
We're talking to Dr. Robert Jeffress. Dr. Jeffress is the senior pastor there at First Baptist Church, Dallas, and author of the new book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times, Hope for Today from the One Who Holds Our Future. The book is available now, and get it wherever you buy your books from. Thank you, Robert. We appreciate it very much. Keep up the good work.
Great to be with you guys. We really appreciate AFR.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I meant to, we didn't have time, but I meant to ask him where he comes down on the whole faucet thing.
Handle? Faucet?
Yeah.
The handle
Sensor versus handles.
It's probably in the prophecy somewhere, right?
No, listen, I'm not. It's a very serious subject that he's writing about. And so, folks, we do encourage you to get a copy of the book, Jesus Revealed in the End Times by Dr. Robert Jeffress, well known to our listeners. And I do agree with him. This is a subject that should be preached about more. I'm happy to say our pastor, Scooter Noland, he doesn't hold back on any subject. He's very, very bold and preaches the truth. And we need
more of that.
Pulpits aflame in this day and age with preachers who will preach the truth and not be afraid of blowback.
Why wouldn't you want to know the end of the story? We read books. We don't stop halfway through.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the return of Jesus Christ is how it all wraps up.
Yes.
And there are consequences for people who do not trust in Jesus Christ as their personal Savior, and great consequences for those who do.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to know, and your congregations to know, how the story ends? Because we don't know when Jesus is going to return. It could be today.
That's right.
It can happen anytime. And what you've done with Jesus matters a whole lot. Mm-hmm. It matters for eternity.
I remember I say I remember. I don't remember who the preacher was. I'm quoting. But he was preaching about the end times, and lady come up after he was preaching. I'm not making this up. This actually happened. I can't remember the name of the individual. This is 20 years ago. And the lady came up and she said, Pastor, do you really believe this is the final generation? And he said to her, well, for you it is. He said one generation per person. So all of us, to your point, Fred, Jesus is coming back. Mm-hmm. But all of us, one way or the other, this is our generation.
Yes.
We better make an impact on it, and we better be faithful in it. And preachers make a big difference on how people view their lives in terms of eternity. And that's part of the message of preaching about the end times. And that's, I'm sure, where Dr. Jeffress got a lot of these chapters from. I'm sure it's from sermons he's preached. So pick up a copy of Jesus Revealed in the End Times by Dr. Robert Jeffress.
And if you want to listen to Dr. Robert Jeffress radio show each day here on American Family Radio, 6 a.m. Central Time, his Bible teaching program, Pathway to Victory, which you're a daily listener to, right?
I get to catch some of it. And also, just before him is Dr. David Jeremiah.
Yeah.
That's good preaching.
Yeah.
That's good
That's a great tag team right there.
Yes.
I will say this. When you asked, nobody reads a book and stops halfway through. Well, my dad, and God rest his soul, and I miss my dad, but he was famous in our family for starting books and getting about a quarter of the way through and just not finishing. He would get started. I bought him a book once. I bought him a book for like his birthday or for Christmas for several years in a row. And then we were visiting, my wife and I were visiting one time, and I looked at his bookshelf and I said, "What's with all these books that I got you with the bookmark just a quarter of a way through?" And he said, "Well,
bored or distracted? Which one?"
I don't know. Some people just aren't big readers. He was a very, very smart man and was very well informed, but he just didn't like reading books. So I stopped getting him books.
I got 3 books going on my desk right now.
Yeah.
But they're like it'll take me 6 months probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you finish them.
Yeah.
I got big into audiobooks.
Yes, and a lot of young people, a lot of younger people.
Your dad probably would have enjoyed the audiobooks.
He would watch the History Channel back when they actually had history on it, rather than Aliens built this and Aliens built that. History Channel, Discovery, and some of these. And, of course, my dad, who lived to he was 93, it was always on full blast. Loud as it could be. But a lot of younger people like podcasts. No, he actually had good hearing. But as you get older, your hearing does degrade without you having to have hearing aids. He just liked it loud. And the rest of us
They wanted to drown out every other noise.
I
That's
guess.
what it
Including
was.
other people wanting to talk to him.
That's right, yeah.
Sounds like to me.
Anyway,
all right. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues. That's what you're listening to here on American Family Radio. Today's Issues. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and Fred. Hey, by the way, talking about the New Jerusalem that will be revealed sometime in the future. We are going to Israel on a tour that I'm going to lead with Alex McFarland and Bert Harper. They're going with me.
Oh, wow. Great.
And my wife, Allison.
Yeah.
It's March of next year, so a year from now. We're going to go to the Holy Land.
That's going to be a stellar lineup to have going along with you.
Who's part of that stellar?
You, Tim. You. Especially.
No. That sounded bad. That sounded I was like asking you to say that, and I wasn't.
I know you.
I was speaking of Bert and Alex.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
we all know you, Tim.
But I appreciate that though. But we're going to, we are going to Israel on a tour a year from now. And also Wesley and Walker are leading a Footsteps of Paul tour.
Right.
That's going to be phenomenal.
Mostly in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also in March of next year. You can do both.
Back to back?
Yes. You have to take a second mortgage out on your house. But that's up to you.
That's right. It's up to you.
But you can do both. We've arranged it where you can do both. If you want to be gone and do Footsteps of Paul back to back while you're over there with the Holy Land tour, you can do both, or you can do one or the other. Okay? So if you want dates, price, itinerary, all that stuff, you just need to go to our website. And our website is as follows: WILDMON group.com. Wildmon, not Wild Man. I don't know what website you go to there.
I just typed it in.
You probably don't want to go there. Wildmon
takes you to Wildman businesses with it if you do A, so don't do A.
What? I'm sorry?
I said I did that. It's wild. If you type in Wild Man.
Yes. It's inappropriate?
No, it just goes to Wild Man businesses.
Okay, well, forget that. That's not where you need to go.
No.
WILDMON group.com for click on the Holy Land tour or the Footsteps of Paul tour for
Now
2026.
you are guaranteeing the old Jerusalem on this trip. New Jerusalem, you're going to have to wait.
If the Lord doesn't return between now and then, in that case, I don't think people will care.
Nope.
So, yeah, we're going to the old Jerusalem, and we're going to tour there.
That Footsteps of Paul tour, does that go to Turkey at all? And as well,
You know,
as
I haven't
Greece?
looked at it, Wesley.
I'm looking at it now.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
seeing turkey on there.
Is there some of those?
You can get turkey while you're there, I'm guessing. But
Yeah.
There's some of those.
Duly
You're
noted.
your father's son.
Duly noted.
There are some of those cities from the Book of Revelation, Ephesus
Right,
and stuff like that.
You can read all about it.
You got. I'll hit a couple up. I'll read a couple here. You got
Make sure you're pronouncing
Thessalonica.
towns right, or people ain't gonna go with you. So,
Thessalonica.
You better be careful.
Thessalonica, Mount Olympus.
That's all.
Mars
Athens.
Hill.
Athens.
Mars Hill. That's in Athens.
Yeah,
I've been there before.
I better stop there. These are kind of get Lydia.
Right, but you can read the whole itinerary there at the website. So, Ed, you want to take a stab at pronouncing some of those
full
Greek?
day in Philippi. I mean, this looks. The Areopagus. That is also in Athens. That's the full day.
Athens and
Mars
Corinth.
Hill.
Yeah.
All of that's a Sunday. That's a full day in Athens. The Areopagus, Acropolis, Parthenon, Mars Hill, the ruins of the Agora, Olympic Stadium. Wow, that's going to be.
That's in Athens alone.
Yes, that's and that's in the Book of Acts.
Thessalonica is another place they're going.
Yeah.
We Americans call it Thessalonica, but it's Thessalonica. I think
That's
for
what
those
my
folks.
mom, who is Greek, she was born in Greece. When I was taking Greek in Bible college, she corrected me all the time.
Yeah, well,
You don't pronounce it Thessaloniki.
Yeah, well,
Well,
it's funny you say that because me of all people, I'm really bad in grammar in English and writing, and so I thought I caught them and was like, I was like, yes, I finally got. They always get me.
Yeah.
They meaning the editors that edit my stuff, edit my writing. They're like, it's full of red ink. I was like, no, I got you this time.
Yeah.
And I sent it over to Walker and a couple others. Like, hey, you're going to have to check this and change. But they were like, no, that's correct. I was like, well, that's not how it writes in the Bible, but okay.
Right.
I side with the Bible. No,
That's the modern
Sure.
city.
That's right.
That is that came from the biblical city of Thessalonica.
We got about a minute or so, Fred. What do you got left there?
Well, very quickly, there's been another owner of a Tesla. Her car has been attacked. This is a lady in Wichita, Kansas. Her name is Abigail Gill. She was at a restaurant, and somebody just
Keyed her car.
damage,
They
keyed her car. And she was on with Fox this morning. I think we have enough time, Brent, do we? Or are we almost out of time? Okay.
Oh, so we can.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we'll play that when we come back.
When you come back, hear her story, folks. It's getting ridiculous. Her car is damaged to the extent, as a disabled person, she can't use it.
That's the we need to mention that when we get back the full story that she's disabled.
Yes.
I tell you what, for all the scaremongering that people on the left do against people who are conservatives, like they call us Nazis and white supremacists and
nationalists,
extremists and nationalists. Almost all the actual
Violence.
incidents of violence are committed by people on the left.
Uh-huh.
And that's almost always the way it is. We'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
All God asks of you is faithfulness. Headlines in USA Today. Did you see it this morning? All the odds against us. Faithfulness is the word.
There's a place for you on the battle line. Engage in the fight for America's families. Visit AFA.net and then take your position. A message from the American Family Association.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. A group chat from top military and intelligence officials included timing and locations of airstrikes hitting Houthi targets in Yemen. Jared Halpern has more from the White House.
The Atlantic published additional messages sent in a group chat on the Signal app by top administration officials during airstrikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared specific timing of when fighter jets and drones would hit intended targets and added operational security is clean. But the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, had been inadvertently added to that chat. The National Security Council is looking into how that happened. President Trump says no classified material was shared. And Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, responding to the latest reporting, says these were not war plans and the story is another hoax written by a Trump hater. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The House Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation holding an oversight hearing for the National Transportation Safety Board today. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy thanking the committee for the support they have given over the years, adding it will allow NTSB to increase their staffing and improve performance.
With your support, we'll be able to increase our agency's size to 450 onboards. It's currently 427, which I can talk about. That would bring us closer to truly full staffing of about 500 personnel.
A group of media organizations is set to testify before Congress.
The heads of NPR and PBS will be testifying at a hearing they would normally cover. The House DOJ subcommittee will hear from the news organizations that receive government funding. As chairwoman Marjorie Taylor Greene tells Fox News Radio, she wants them to address allegations of liberal bias.
Any person or entity that has taken federal tax dollars owes the American people an explanation.
Less than 1% of NPR's funding comes from the government, while PBS reportedly gets 16% of its funding from the government. On Capitol Hill, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
President Trump continues facing legal setbacks as he implements his immigration agenda. House Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan claiming the party members are working in the House to prevent judges from ruling against the president.
We have legislative ways to address this. We have the appropriations process that the Speaker also mentioned. You know, we control the power of the purse, and we may want to look at the money that goes to the courts and judges. We don't want to jeopardize justice for the American people.
A car plows into a Christmas market in Germany 3 months ago, but a driver drove a car into Elon Musk protesters in Florida over the weekend. Notice a difference how the two terrorist attacks are covered? Steve Jordahl reports.
3 months ago, ABC News reported on the attack in Germany.
A car plowed into a crowd of people at the Magdeburg Christmas market west of Berlin.
But apparently all the car control laws passed in the various states are having an effect. In Florida over the weekend, the car didn't spontaneously ram into people. It was a driver to blame.
A man was detained this afternoon after authorities say that he plowed his vehicle into protesters outside of the Tesla dealership in West Palm.
The difference? In Germany, it was an Islamist attack, so the media brushed right past the driver as if he wasn't involved. In Florida, an angry conservative drove into Tesla and Elon Musk protesters, so the media was quick to point out the political leanings of that attacker. Nicholas Fondacaro of Media Research Center says the bias is always on display when the mainstream media covers some act of terror, and it's not an accident or oversight.
They have to see it. It's obvious to anybody.
He says it's one more example of liberal reporters and producers practicing politics rather than journalism.
It's basically to push a notion that these attacks are politically motivated while claiming those Islamic attacks or those other attacks against like Christian groups or whatever. They're like, oh, we don't know the motivation and we don't want to presume the motivation.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
Most U.S. stocks are rising and Wall Street is drifting in mixed trading. The S&P 500 slipped 0.4%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 201 points. The Nasdaq Composite down 1.2%. More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app for your Apple or Android device. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Backed by popular demand, the AFA Easter button is here. The bold new stained glass design features the cross at the center under the message, "He is risen." This beautiful design tells the story in one line. It's a conversation starter, so you might share the saving truth of Jesus' death and resurrection. A 10-pack of buttons is $15. 10 or more 10-packs are just $7 each. Order today at resources.afa.net. That's resources.afa.net. He is risen indeed.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. That's the name of this here show on the American Family Radio Network. We'll be here till the bottom of the hour. And we hope you're having a nice day on this Wednesday, March the 26th. Tim, Ed, Wesley, and now Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, before you get back to anybody else having pollen issues?
Yes.
Yes.
Huh?
It's going through my whole family.
Yeah, I've been.
You too, Steve?
I've had something going on for a couple months, but yeah.
I guess it was about a week or so ago. It's like I walked out the side one day, and all of a sudden it was green. Pollen?
Yeah.
Yellow pollen on my vehicle. And once you can start seeing on your vehicle, I don't know.
Yeah, I've never really had any. I probably shouldn't get this personal, but health issues related to pollen. But for some reason this year it's just like I'm fine inside. You go outside, like start sneezing like a. I don't know what
it does is for a couple.
Fill in that sentence there.
Yeah,
sneezing like something. Go ahead.
Yeah, it'll last like that here in
how long?
North Mississippi for probably about a month, till you stop seeing it as much.
You mean floating in the air?
Yeah, before it's that
landing. Have to wipe it off your car every other day,
right?
Like that. So.
On the other hand, we are pollinating the flowers as we pass by them, so
that's true. You gotta kind of be pro pollen.
Yeah, you know.
You do.
Yeah.
The bees.
Well, because if we
don't have enough bees.
Die.
Yes. You got to have the bees pollinating flowers.
And they're taking this
fruit
is their
trees.
vacation time. This is their spring break, so we fill in.
All right, Steve. Before the break, we were talking with Fred about a story we were rushed on.
Yeah.
Reset that for us.
So, as you know, the public, the left has been waging war on Elon Musk and his Tesla dealerships and private cars. We're seeing a lot of keying of private cars, just damaging. These people are unhinged and angry. It baffles me or anybody probably on this panel what good that does. But in Kansas, a woman named Abigail Gill was eating at a restaurant, and her Tesla was parked outside. Now, this was a Tesla that was outfitted to help. She's disabled and to help her get in and out and everything. So it was a pretty expensive car, and someone got it. Listen to what she telling Steve Ducey this morning on Fox and Friends 10.
It's super sad thing and disappointing thing to see because it's not hurting Elon at all. It's just hurting the families that are getting such valuable things damaged. We got an estimate, and I would say around $7,000.
Why did you want to have a Tesla?
I think Tesla is just an overall great car. It's an amazing American-made company, but it also has incredible accessibility features that allow me to drive long distances just like everybody else. We have had so many people reach out, so many people offer to, pay the damages. But I just think that the only person who needs to pay a single dime is the guy who thought it was okay to do this.
Now, do they have an image of the person? A lot of these Teslas, when
All
you
of these
approach
Teslas
all
have
of them,
cameras.
they have cameras that are triggered by movement.
Yes.
So when these people approach, the video starts. So do they have an image for this person?
I believe they do. I haven't read where
She
they
acted
are.
like they did.
Yeah,
Talking like
I mean,
the
you
way-
can't. People are pulling up in cars and getting out and keying this thing, and the Tesla's recording the license plate number of the car.
Yeah,
the clear image of the guy's face, and so I mean, it's really counterproductive. It's
Listen, I don't. I've engaged from time to time in my life on a personal level of a
vandalism.
Yeah, but it's not often.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I got mad at the post office the other day, and I went down there. You know what I'm saying?
I guess you're in postal.
Well, I'm not going to go into it because it was my own situation. And
all right, we need to clarify that this is a joke before someone reports him. They don't mess around.
I know.
No,
I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding. Here's what I was going to say. I was on track to communicate a very serious and poignant point, but I was interrupted.
Yes. Who did that?
Never happens here.
Come on. All right.
May
I apologize.
May I?
Go right ahead.
So I have engaged from time to time in a personal boycott, if that's what you want to call it, or I'm not buying that product from that company because I don't like what Target did.
Right.
Or Target, let's take Target, for example. When Target announced they were allowing boys to use girls' restrooms and changing areas, I said, as did a million other people, millions of people, all right then, I choose not to buy stuff from Target because I don't agree with their policies. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
That's as American as apple pie.
Tossing tea
The
in
left,
the harbor.
the left and the right have engaged in that, and that's fine. It's a free country. So if you want to say, I don't agree with Elon Musk politics, therefore I'm not going to support him in any way, him being his companies, including Tesla, that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't.
That's a good point.
It's a free country. But you cannot, where these lefties go over the edge is when they can't control themselves, so they feel like they need to key a individual's
and/or firebomb
a dealership.
I mean,
well, in this case, this is a woman who has nothing to do with Elon Musk. She owns a car that she bought from a company, and then Tesla could have been owned by anybody. She didn't buy the car to support Elon Musk. She bought the car because she liked the automobile, and she said it's accessible for her as a handicapped person. So, and a lot of people like the way Tesla looks. They drive.
I've driven.
She could have very well. We don't even know if she even bought.
There's a reason why they've sold well, and it isn't just for save the planet purposes.
Right.
A lot of people like the Tesla look and how they drive. So I'm saying that, but I don't go. Try to burn down a Target store.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or bomb a Target store.
Right.
But these people on the left, now what we're referring to, not only is this this particular incident was in Wichita, Kansas, of her car being keyed, but it's the where was the dealership in Texas that found bombs?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know
what is San Antonio or Austin or somewhere. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I read
a couple
the
days ago they found explosives.
Yeah, at a Tesla
at a Tesla dealership.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, these some of these people on the left just need to take a chill pill.
Right.
Well, we've already established that they're not very smart. Some Tesla owners are camouflaging their cars. I'm passing around the picture of one of them that's doing it here. And I don't know. This actually might work.
You mean where they put a different automobile?
Put Toyota
yeah,
on
but
the back of the Cybertruck.
The Tesla.
That's funny.
Tesla.
I will say I'm looking at pictures of Teslas. A lot of the vehicles, a lot of the cars are nice looking. The Tesla Cybertruck, I got to say,
it's weird.
It is just strange looking.
Yeah. It's sci-fi looking.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to fly.
Yeah,
it's good, or maybe it looks like it was in a Mad Max.
Yeah, that's a good way to. It does.
Movie.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing too. I saw a video of some guy that was trying to. He had a pickaxe, and he wanted to test the strength of the Tesla. So he took the pickaxe with the flat end, the long flat end, and he flung it as hard as he could 4 times against the Tesla. There was dents or scratches in the Tesla, but the pickaxe, the flat end, was curved all the way over.
It bended. Was that true? I saw that video. I didn't know whether that was.
That was me.
Well, that was.
Yeah. that was so much fun.
They are They're literally bulletproof.
They're bulletproof.
They're literally bulletproof.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, next story, Steve.
All right. Well, let's talk about. We wanted to talk about something the Trump administration is saying it's going to do. They haven't done it yet, but the Wall Street Journal is reporting that President Trump is about to sign an executive order that is going to freeze federal family planning grants worth about $120 million a year. This includes grants to Planned Parenthood, who they say would get, how much do they get? About $20 million in family planning every year. Family planning. So, of course, what they say, this is what the Wall Street Journal says, is that the funding would cut support for pregnancy testing, provision of contraceptive, treatment of sexually transmitted infections, evaluation and counseling for infertility, and
They can do all that. They just don't do abortions.
Well, they didn't ever mention abortions.
All right, here's the deal. Here's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And by the way, if this actually happens, this is probably the biggest success from a government perspective for the pro-life cause in 50 years, or since Roe versus Wade. If it happens, if it happens. Now, what we're talking about is for decades, the federal government has given millions of dollars to an organization known as Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, as part of their business, as it were, they do abortions. They are the number one provider of abortions in the country and have been for a long time. I don't know how many they do annually, but that's how they make a lot of their money, is by doing abortions. All right. In addition to that, they do other services, which they will laud, and they will say, hey, we exist to provide all these other free services to poor people having to do with sexually transmitted disease prevention, breast cancer I don't know, all these things they claim that they do, which most people don't have a problem with. It's the abortion part that is a moral problem for millions of Americans. Now, what makes this controversial, so to speak, is the federal government, our tax dollars, have been given by Congress to, is it Medicare or Medicaid?
The Medicaid.
Who then give it to Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
Well, there is such thing. I know I'm going into great detail, but people need to understand the significance of what President Trump is trying to do here in his administration, because we applaud them, okay? And this is a big deal, should it happen. So there's something called the Hyde Amendment. You may have heard about it. Henry Hyde was a United States congressman back in the 20th century, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right in there. I don't know all the years. From Chicago. And there was an amendment passed by Democrats and Republicans.
Back in the day when...
Yes, and it said that no federal tax dollars shall go to support or provide abortions. And Democrats and Republicans both agreed on that at the time. Well, they have circumvented this, Planned Parenthood does, by saying we don't do abortions with the money that the federal government gives us. Well, the problem is all the money's in one kitty, so to speak. So they can say we don't do abortions with the money that the federal government gives us. We do other things like keep the lights on so that we can do the abortions. It's a charade.
It is.
It's a charade. So what President Trump is trying to do here, and God bless him, and I hope he's able to do it, his administration, is to defund Planned Parenthood with tax dollars. Now, if Planned Parenthood wants to say we're stopping doing abortions, then they can continue giving them.
Well, they're not, because they do about almost 400,000 abortions a year.
Who, Planned Parenthood alone?
Planned Parenthood, they are the world's largest abortion provider.
So they're going to keep doing it. It's a money maker.
Country.
Oh, yeah. They won't
now,
stop.
let me just say, in terms of federal dollars, Planned Parenthood Federation of America, that's their full name, and their affiliates receive about $148 million a year in HHS grants, Health and Human Services.
Tax dollars?
Tax dollars. But also $1.54 billion in Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP payments.
Okay.
That's kind of like the aid to kids. So this sounds like it is the Trump administration trying to cut back on those HHS grants. But the real big money is federal funding of almost more than $1.5 billion in Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP payments.
I need to throw a caveat in here. I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but the Wall Street Journal is reporting that during the freeze, the department plans to examine whether the funds were used for DEI efforts, which is what they're doing. Now, he could
not
keep
for the
them up.
pro-life cause.
Not for
that we know of.
They didn't. The Wall Street Journal is not reporting.
Well, he's trying. I don't care how they get at them. If they can stop them, stop the federal government from funding Planned Parenthood until they stop doing abortions.
Well, yeah, okay, yes, but just trying to think through this, would we be okay? And I don't know, but that's the reason I'm asking. This is not a rhetorical question. Would we be okay if they showed that they're? I'm not saying they're likely to do this either, but would we be okay if they said, okay, we're going to allocate the money toward these health practices, or what do you call it, health prevention or medical practices that everyone agrees on, that doesn't have to do with a moral issue? It would be okay if the money was given and it could be shown this is how it's being used, and it didn't include going to abortions, even if they still did abortions.
Well,
that's what they're doing, actually. But here's the thing:
it's a bookkeeping trick.
Even if it wasn't.
Okay.
Even if it was, they put it in a separate account and only used it. That's that we're paying to keep the lights on.
I'm tracking
in the
with
Planned Parenthood facility. So it facilitates the abortion. It frees up all the money that Planned Parenthood would have had to use to run the business, to pay their employees.
Listen,
and they use the tax dollars for that, and then.
If you ask,
if
you ask Americans, I haven't seen a survey on this recently. If you ask Americans of all, and I'm talking about a general public survey, not right or left or whatever, and you said, do you think tax dollars should go to pay for abortions? A majority, if not a vast majority of Americans are going to say, no, that should not. You should not use the public money to pay for people's private abortions.
That's
should
right.
not do it. Even if that person said, I'm personally
in favor,
quote, pro-choice.
Sure.
Most of those people would say, I can understand we don't want to use tax dollars to pay for abortions.
That's right.
And that's why we have the Hyde Amendment. So anyway, we'll see where this goes.
So can we reset, though? What exactly is he trying to do?
President Trump and his administration, they're trying to do what? Read that again.
They are set, if the Wall Street Journal is correct, they are set. President Trump is set to sign an executive order that will freeze tens of millions of dollars in federal family planning grants, not only to Planned Parenthood, but other institutions.
And they're about to go nuts. The
right.
AOCs of the world, Bernie Sanders of the world, their hairs, they've already burnt their hair like 7 times since President Trump's been. They're about
9 weeks.
They'll go absolutely apocalyptic on this one here. They're going to say Trump is trying to let women die of cervical cancer because they can't get testing at Planned Parenthood because he wants to take away the money. That's what you're going to hear.
Right. Yeah.
That's not going to affect him.
All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Next story, Steve.
Can we talk about one of the strangest advertisements I've ever seen?
We sure can.
Kentucky Fried Chicken has released an online ad. I've mailed this to Brent, who's going to post it on our Facebook page.
It's weird.
And we can't play any of it, not because it's necessarily like objectionable language-wise or image-wise, but because it's all music. So there would be no point to play it on the radio. But let me describe it to you. It is a bunch of people in a jungle, in a forest, that gather around. They end up carrying an egg, a huge golden egg, which they drop several times. Then the guy that was the first guy that you see in the commercial approaches a lake, which is filled with KFC gravy. And somebody picks up this guy, walks out, baptizes him in the gravy, and then holds up a chicken nugget after as he brings him out.
I had a dream like that.
It would be. It would be like
it was really weird. But anyway, go ahead.
This is not only bizarre, it's demonic because this individual's baptized in gravy. He comes out as a chicken strip or a chicken nugget or whatever, implying that they're going to eat a person who's now taken the form. Now, this is from the YouTube video of KFC's own. They posted it.
It's their own description of the video.
Yes, they posted it, and this is what it says underneath the video. It says, "Do you find yourself lost in the woods of modern life? Fear not, for salvation in sauce is near. Trust in the thumping sound of the golden egg. Trust in the liquid gold elixir. Trust in the divine dunk," talking about dunking your chicken in gravy, "and whisper the sacred words, all hail gravy, because there's some things we can still believe in chicken." So this is clearly an attempt.
A lot of religious.
Yes, there's a lot of people. There are 3,400 comments under this. I haven't read one yet that is supportive.
They'll take it down, I think.
This is demonic.
You really mean that?
I really mean it. This is blasphemous, and whoever thought this was a good idea is just a lost soul that needs Jesus. That's what I'll just say about this. But this is
now.
Mocking.
This hasn't aired on television, right?
No,
it's only online. It's KFC.
YouTube and
we're talking about KFC, the chicken company.
Yes.
And what you guys that is. You showed that ad to us. You showed what we're talking about to us, and that was really weird. It was a weird commercial, to say the least, but it was sacrilegious.
It is very, very sacrilegious. And listen, KFC's not going to do an ad like this mocking Islam. I can tell you that, or anyone else, else's religion. They're going to mock Christianity and baptism. And the new birth.
Where are people making these comments? Because we don't have KFC's. People need to watch it first.
If you go online to YouTube, you can comment on videos and such, or Twitter.
1 Million Moms is going to later in the week, which is a division of American Family Association, is going to hit KFC.
I can't wait to hear what Monica has to say about this.
All right, here I'll read just this one comment. It's at the very top.
Are you looking at it right now on the YouTube or something, Wesley?
Yes, I'm looking at it on YouTube, and I'm reading the first comment. Now, obviously, it's the most recent comment because every time someone comments, the comments go down. So the most recent one, this person read my mind. Are you ready? "I cannot possibly imagine how any person thought this was a good idea, period."
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Well, there's so many other things you can quote the Bible. You got plenty of other responses that are all good, but that one's hilarious.
Here's one that said, "Now, I'm not a 100% religious person, but I recognize the devil when I see him."
Right.
That's under the comments of the YouTube video.
People watching this.
Another comment that was written is, "That's enough internet for me today."
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, my advice to KFC is this:
stick to chicken.
You can't improve on finger looking good.
Right.
That's fair.
You're right.
Finger licking good is all you need to go with. You don't need to try to do something sacrilegious like this to promote your company.
Yes. And I have
Colonel Sanders would roll over in his grave.
And I have another comment. Popeyes, don't do anything stupid.
Right.
You still have my business.
And if Chick-fil-A goes woke, we're all done.
Oh, yeah. That's a sign that the end is near.
Huh?
That's a sign that the end is near.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Steve.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah.
Wesley.
Yep.
Fred was on the show. Robert Jeffers was on the show. We thank them and our producer, Brent Creeley. We hope you have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. Keep listening to AFR, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Hello, this is Tim Wildman, president of American Family.